A man can be seen on surveillance cameras just after midnight, leaving a house while carrying a white laundry basket on a quiet street. He walks behind a cigarette shop and disappears from view. At that time, no one knew what was inside the basket. The truth was only revealed the next day when a construction worker discovered something horrifying. Around 1 p.m., this mother, Heidi Knoll, arrived at her daughter Lisa Dodd's apartment. Lisa was 22 years old and 8 months pregnant. Heidi hadn't heard from her for over 15 hours since the previous night. A strange feeling overcame her, so she entered the apartment herself. After 2 minutes, other residents saw her as she opened the door. Heidi came out again, visibly shaking. The neighbor's facial expressions said it all. Then Heidi made a horrifying emergency call. The police arrived shortly after and discovered Lisa's lifeless body. In this video, we will show you exactly what happened to Lisa Dodd on the night she was killed, with never-before-seen footage. We advise viewer discretion as some content may be disturbing. Now, let's delve into the horrific murder of Lisa Dodd. Lisa lived in Alton, Madison County, Illinois, a suburb of St. Louis where she was born. In this surveillance footage, residents are seen taking out trash, going to work, and performing their daily tasks. But all of that was about to change. Across the street, there was ongoing construction work. Site waste, like pieces of drywall, was being thrown into a large red dumpster parked on the street outside. On the morning of June 9th, a worker carrying old drywall discovered something in the dumpster that shouldn't be there. The contractor realized something was abnormal about this scene and wanted to get away from it as soon as possible. This was the first sign that this day would not be the ordinary summer day the local residents thought it would be. Emergency teams were dispatched at 1 p.m. and arrived to find Heidi still sitting on the stairs, crying. She gave them the access code to the residential building. Even though they knew what they were about to find, it never gets easier. Lisa's apartment was on the 2nd floor. The door was unlocked. They found her body in her bedroom, or at least they thought it was her body. Her head appeared to be wrapped in a towel like a turban. But under the turban, there was no head. She had been decapitated. Not only was Lisa killed, but her face was mutilated. The tranquility of this completely peaceful neighborhood was torn apart. How did we get here? What happened to lead to this happening to a young woman like her who was preparing to become a mother? To understand how this crime occurred, we have to go back 24 hours. We find Lisa living her life, looking forward to her future. Here she is on her balcony just before 2 p.m. on June 8th, browsing her phone and looking at the park. Within 6 hours, she would be dead. Lisa Dodd was born in Alton, Madison County, on August 14, 1999. She was a smart and enthusiastic child who particularly loved animals. She graduated from Jersey Community High School in 2017 and began working at Dairy Queen, where customers remembered her as an active and friendly employee. But she wasn't just working, she was saving to achieve her ambition of entering the medical field like her mother before her. By June 2022, Lisa was also 8 months pregnant. The expected child was a girl. Lisa hadn't yet decided on a name for her daughter, and the family simply called her Baby Bean. They were looking forward to the birth and all that would follow. Lisa was in an on-and-off relationship with a man named Deandre Holloway, also an Illinois native. Deandre was the same age as Lisa. Deandre had some problems. He used substances and had a difficult childhood, according to his half-sister. PJ, he had drawn Lisa into this unstable lifestyle in the past. On one occasion, according to her former manager at Dairy Queen, they were homeless, living in a tent near Lake Litchfield. In early 2022, he moved into an apartment in Alton. But things weren't going well between them. Lisa's work manager witnessed one of these fights. On one occasion in July 2021, Lisa was taken to the hospital after Adri broke her nose and gave her black eyes. They were also seen arguing in the street. Previously, after one of these disputes, Adri was seen hitting himself in the face as if punishing himself. It reached a point where, in September 2021, she sent a message to her manager. But this separation didn't last. Lisa and Adri got back together soon after. He was sending messages to a friend talking about his poor mental state. On June 5th, just after midnight, he wrote, "I've become so broken I think I am going to lose my mind completely." He also wrote, "I always had to be the man, even as a child, and I was always put in manly situations, and even today it's still the same." He seemed like a man on the verge of collapse. On Tuesday, June 7th, Adri disappeared. PJ added Lisa on social media while the family was searching for him. When Lisa returned from work on Tuesday, she found Adri was not there. He hadn't told her for when he would return. Lisa, nearly full-term pregnant and with many responsibilities, was extremely anxious. She sent a message to her mother around 9 p.m. on June 7th, writing that she felt Adri had left and taken some clothes with him, and that he had left intentionally with no intention of returning. Heidi tried to console her, looking for a silver lining in the situation. She had been worried about her daughter's relationship for a while, and perhaps saw this separation as a mercy. If Adri seemed to be collapsing, clearly Lisa was too. The relationship between them was like a powder keg about to explode. But in the end, Heidi convinced her that stress wouldn't help her or her baby. Finally, Lisa went to bed, but not before taking her car for a half-hour night drive at 12:39 a.m. because she was too anxious to sleep. The next morning at 9:06 a.m., she wrote to her mom, "Adri still hasn't come home yet." She continued her morning routine, washing her work clothes for her shift later as if it were a normal day, but she felt that something was wrong. She began contacting Deandre's family, including his half-sister. Heidi suggested she call the Alton police to ask if he'd been arrested, or ask Joe, the apartment owner, if there was anything strange on the cameras. Lisa did what her mother suggested and sent him a text. The cameras showed Adri going out with his uncle Marty on Tuesday evening, but he didn't return that night. PJ went to sleep early on the evening of June 8th without hearing anything else. Meanwhile, Lisa received a message suddenly around 8 p.m. from Adri's uncle saying he was bringing Adri home and that everything was fine. Heidi was not happy with how her pregnant daughter was being treated. She never trusted Adri. They can be seen here on camera footage returning to their apartment at 11:01 p.m. While they were in the car, Lisa sent a message to her mother saying she was trying to understand the matter. This was the last message she would send in her life. And this camera image is the last time she would be seen alive. At 11:49 p.m., Heidi sent a message asking if she was okay. She received no reply. By that time, Lisa was already dead. In the following few hours, the cameras show a number of neighbors coming and going. Lisa and Adri are not seen again until 12:07 a.m., when Adri appears carrying a white laundry basket. He stands next to Lisa's car without entering it, suggesting he forgot the keys. Then he goes back inside and comes out again minutes later, still carrying the laundry basket. He moves out of the camera's view towards the nearby cigarette shop. Behind it is a dumpster. Surveillance cameras from one of the shops show the rest. At 1:00 a.m., the white laundry basket is seen being thrown into the dumpster alongside some clothes. This laundry basket, as police would later discover, contained Lisa's head. 2 hours later, her car disappeared from the parking lot. Audrey went to his father's house, PJ. Found him in the bathroom, round 10 o'clock a.m. on June 9, 3 hours before Lisa's mother discovered her daughter's body. Audrey hadn't cut his hair in years and was proud of his dreadlocks, so his decision to cut his hair on that specific day was strange. He asked his mother if he could shower and get some clothes. PJ was asleep when Audrey returned home that night around 2 o'clock a.m., but her sister was awake. It seemed strange to Audrey's family that he showed up driving his girlfriend's car without his girlfriend. The disturbing signs didn't end there. His grandmother noticed he had other belongings that belonged to Lisa. Audrey didn't have an answer for why he had Lisa's possessions. Around noon, he left the house without telling anyone where he was going. It seemed Audrey was trying to erase his tracks. He made himself less distinguishable, changed his clothes, and threw them in the trash. He was carrying many of Lisa's personal items, which he gave to his grandmother to dispose of. He left Lisa's car parked on the street with a handwritten for sale sign inside, and then he left on foot. His actions gradually clarified the truth of what happened that fateful night, a truth that Lisa's mother seemed to know from the beginning. She didn't need to catch Audrey red-handed to know what he had done. What really happened inside the apartment that night between 11:01 p.m., when the couple entered, and 12:57 a.m., when Audrey left. The neighbors downstairs were witnesses to much of the violence in Lisa and Deandre's relationship, and on the night of June 8th. They heard everything. That unbelievable slashing sound was the sound of Lisa's throat being cut. One of the neighbors sent a message to the landlord describing the thuds and screaming that lasted for about 5 minutes, then stopped for a moment before starting again. The neighbor's door upstairs was also open. The landlord tried to contact Lisa but received no response. The neighbor said they would call the police if they heard the sound again, but they didn't hear anything after that because it was already too late, with all this evidence accumulating. Around 3:30 p.m. on June 9th, police executed a search warrant at Deandre's father's house. In a trash can outside, they found the clothes he was wearing in the surveillance footage, plus his cut-off dreadlocks wrapped in toilet paper. There was no sign of Audrey himself. But at 12:45 a.m. in the early hours of June 10th, investigators received a phone call from the Galesburg Police Department. That afternoon, they arrested a person of unknown identity, who they later identified as Deandre Holloway. Audrey was detained strictly to prevent him from harming himself. As he was hitting his head against the wall and making threats to the guards, Audrey refused to cooperate or provide any information to investigators, even his name. During the interview they conducted with him the next day, he requested a lawyer, and the investigators ended the interview. On June 13th, Audrey was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of intentional homicide of an unborn child, 1 count of dismembering a human body, along with charges related to vehicles and concealing a homicide. Bail was set at $1 million. The case stirred strong emotions locally. In the early days of the case, Audrey refused to leave his cell or attend his court hearings, and officers had to restrain him forcibly. The court later determined he was not mentally fit to stand trial, and he was placed in treatment at a state facility until he regained competency. Meanwhile, the Illinois Supreme Court ruled that an unborn child cannot be considered a second victim for murder purposes for seeking a life sentence, which affected the sentencing that could be sought in Deandre's case. In January 2024, Audrey pleaded guilty. On January 17, 2025, he was sentenced to 60 years in prison. The sentence includes 30 years for murder, 20 years for intentional homicide, and 10 years for concealing a homicide, to be served consecutively. He will have to serve at least 52 years before being eligible for release. Many mysteries remain about why he killed Lisa, despite much speculation. Jealousy over her carrying another man's child, collapse under the pressure of a failed relationship, or simply going too far in a persistent pattern of violence. We may never know the truth. Meanwhile, Lisa's family continues to grieve. Her mother wrote that the sentencing brings some relief for a heinous crime, though no sentence would bring her daughter or granddaughter back. But it should ensure he cannot harm anyone else ever again.